Hello and welcome to Mukoya Finance. My name is Aradin and I'll be your tutor in this class. Today, I will discuss a topic that affects many bank customers in Nigeria, which is how to resolve issues with your bank. It has always been hard for customers to get the information that they need in order to resolve issues with their banks. This video is meant to provide a guide to bank customers as to where to go and what to do if they have a problem with their banking service. The Central Bank of Nigeria had issued the Consumer Protection Regulations, which provide minimum standards required of institutions under the regulatory purview of the bank on fair treatment of consumers, disclosure and transparency, business conduct, complaints handling, and redress in order to protect the rights of consumers and to hold the institutions accountable. The objectives of the regulations are to protect consumers from unfair treatment and exploitation of customers by financial institutions, as well as unethical and predatory practices that undermine consumer confidence in the use of financial products and services. Protect consumers against the provision of inadequate and misleading information and/or failure to disclose material information. Protect consumers by encouraging transparency of institutions in their dealings with consumers. Protect consumers by ensuring access to complaint-resolving channels that are free, fair, timely, transparent, accessible, and independent. These regulations apply to all institutions licensed and/or regulated by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The institutions shall comply with the following provisions to ensure fair treatment of consumers. 1. Treat consumers equitably without bias at all stages of the relationship. 2. Give consumers who meet the minimum legal and non-discriminatory eligible requirements equal access to basic services without regards to their social status, physical ability, marital status, gender, age, religion, tribe, or ideology. 3. Consider the needs of the financially excluded, including the vulnerable groups such as low-income consumers, women, seniors, physically challenged, and the non-literate in the development and implementation of their business models, strategies, and processes. The regulations are targeted at promoting equity, meaning that it shall be the duty of the institutions to treat consumers equitably always. Therefore, institutions shall treat consumers with courtesy and respect and shall not engage in practices such as threats, intimidation, use of abusive or offensive language, humiliation, misrepresentation, deception, or unfair inducements. 2. Apply lending fees or disbursed amounts only in respect of term loans, except for fees which are normally applicable on undisbursed portions. 3. Apply non-credit related fees or charges on an account only to the extent of the balance in the account, and defer outstanding fees or charges until the account is funded and the customer notified of the deferred fees or charges. Promptly oblige customers' request for account closure or to switch providers without unreasonable closing or switching barriers. Ensure that variations to contracts, including interest rates, fees, or charges, are only made if expressly provided for in the contract and shall notify consumers of such variations. Respond to consumers' inquiries or requests within 5 working days of receiving the inquiries or requests. Communicate a decision which can either be acceptance or decline on applications for waivers, extensions, and other concessions to a customer within 10 working days, otherwise the application shall be deemed to have been granted. Not act in a manner that is inconsistent with the terms and conditions of their contract with their customers. Not seek repayment or withhold in part or in full customers' funds to secure repayment before the due date, except with the written authorization of the customer. Not charge early liquidation fees for consumer and small and medium enterprise loans with variable interest rates. The regulation also requires that contracts between institutions and consumers shall not contain unfair terms. Contract terms shall be considered unfair where there is an imbalance in rights and obligations which are detrimental to the consumer. Without any limitation to the general meaning of an unfair contract term, a contract term is considered unfair if it 1. Eliminates or limits the liability of an institution to loss caused to a consumer by misrepresentation, negligence, or misleading information in its product or services. 2. Bind a consumer to an obligation while the corresponding obligation on the institution is conditional. 3. terminate a contract or alter its clauses without reasonable notice to the consumer. 4. Eliminate or limit institutions' liability with respect to actions or commitments undertaken by their employees, agents, or intermediaries. 5. Allow the institution the possibility of transferring its rights and obligations under the contract where this may reduce the rights of consumers without their consent. 6. Eliminate or limit the right of consumers to seek legal redress in the event of a breach. 7. Allow unilateral change to a contract without stating the circumstances under which the change could be made. 8. Purport to waive any protection provided by a law, regulation, or guideline. Unfair terms used in contracts are void and shall not be binding on customers or consumers. Contract terms that conflict with any laws or regulations are null and void to the extent to which they are inconsistent. And finally, where there is any doubt or ambiguity about the meaning of a term used in a contract or other documents provided to a consumer or customer, the interpretation most favorable to the consumer shall prevail. In summary, banks are required by regulation to act fairly and ethically, disclose accurate and reliable information that will allow customers make decisions, provide customers with complaint resolving channels that are free, fair, timely, transparent, accessible, and independent, treat customers equitably without any form of discrimination, and consider the needs of the underserved and physically challenged customers. For more information about the regulations of banks with regards to customer protection, please search for Consumer Protection Regulations on the Central Bank of Nigeria official website, which is www.cbn.gov.ng, and then you type it in this search box, and once it opens up the page, you scroll down and there you go. If you have any other questions regarding the regulations, feel free to email your questions to inquiries@mukoyafinance.com, and we will do our best to answer them. In the next video, I will explain the guidelines that banks must follow before applying a charge on a customer's account if a customer fails to make a loan payment on the due date. And this brings us to the end of this video segment. If you have learned anything new today, please drop a comment, like, and subscribe to my channel in your quest towards understanding banking services in Nigeria and ultimately understanding your rights as a bank customer. See you in the next video.